Hello, 7th graders, and welcome to the last lesson of Chapter 3. 3-6 is on using the metric system. And in tonight's lesson, we have two main objectives. First, students will be able to identify appropriate metric measures, and secondly, you will be able to convert metric units. So as a warm-up, I have 4 problems here, and I want you to solve all 4 of them quickly. So in your head, or write them out if you need to, and then when you're all done, come back and check your answers, all right? So go ahead and do that now. All right, I know I have 5 times 100. Well, 5 times 1 is 5. Add 2 zeros. Here I have 14 and 600ths divided by 1,000. Well, if you divide by 1,000, really, I could divide this out if I wanted to. And then, well, 1,000 goes into that once. And again, I line up my decimal points there. And I'm left with 406, add a 0, carry it down. Well, that goes in there 4 times. And I'm left with 60 and add a 0, bring it down. Well, it doesn't go into 600, so add another 0, bring it down, and there we go. I am left with 0.01406. Now, you could have done it the long way like that, or if you knew the rules before, when you multiply, all you really do is move the decimal over to the left. All right? When you divide, you move the decimal that many zeros over to, well, the left. So here, we have 3 zeros, so I move it over 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And look at that, 0.01406. Same answer, but a lot less work. So here, same idea. I multiply by how many zeros there are. So I have 0.294. Well, I'm multiplying by 10. That has 1 0. So I move it to the right 1. And I get 2 and 94 hundredths. And here I have 9 tenths divided by 100. Well, I'm dividing, so I'm going to go to the left. And there's 2 zeros, so I'm going to go to the left twice. There we go. I get 9 thousandths. So before we can really begin converting units, first we need to understand what they mean. All right? Now there are 3 basic standards or groups that we have. You can measure something by length, capacity, or mass. When we're talking about the length, we're talking about how long something is. And in that, we have 4 different ones you could use. Millimeter, which is about the thickness of a dime. So if you pull out a dime, that's about how thick a millimeter is. A centimeter, which is about the width of one of your, well, a thumbnail. All right? And then finally, a meter, what is about the distance from a doorknob to the floor, that's supposed to say. So if you think from your door, from the bottom of the door to where that doorknob is, that's about a meter. Or if you've seen me pull out a meter stick before, you know what one of those looks like. And then there's a kilometer, which is a little more than half a mile. All right, so those are all measurements you can use with length. So length means how long something is. All right, now capacity, we have 2 we use, and that's milliliter, which is about 5 drops of water. All right, and then we have a liter, which is a little more than a quart of milk. So if you've seen a quart of milk before, it's a little bit more, or a liter of pop, if you've ever had a liter of soda or whatever you like to call it. That's capacity. So capacity means usually when you're talking about liquids, that's usually what we're talking about, and that's how much fits inside. All right, and then finally is mass. And that is really, some people like to think of it as weight, but weight and mass are different. Weight talks about, well, it can fluctuate. Our weight changes all the time. Well, mass is how much stuff you have inside of you. All right, and that doesn't usually change. So milligram is about the mass of a speck of sawdust. So sawdust, it means really it weighs nothing. You could think of an eyelash if you want to think of it that way. If you don't know what sawdust is, if you had 1 eyelash in your palm, that's about the weight of a milligram. Then we have a gram, which is about the mass of a paper clip. So still pretty light, but it's definitely more than a milligram. And then a kilogram is about half the mass of your math book. So if you have your math book at home or even your civics or your language book, about half that mass. So the first part of tonight's lesson is you have to choose an appropriate metric unit. And then you explain your choice. So A, the width of your textbook. We'll do A together. Well, I know I'm talking about the length or how long something is. So I'm going to look at the length category. So you have to decide between these four. Is the width of your textbook about a millimeter, a centimeter, a meter, or a kilometer? What would be the best measurement system? All right, and if you take a look, well, kilometer and meter are obviously too big. So you're stuck between a millimeter and centimeter. Now, both of them would work, but the one that's the most appropriate would be a centimeter. Because, well, millimeter is a little small. All right, if we can measure it in a centimeter, we might as well. So go ahead and do B and C, and when you're all done, come back and check your answer. So go ahead and do those now. All right, so let's look at B, the mass of a pair of glasses. Well, mass, I know I'm going to look at those three. It's either milligram, a gram, or a kilogram. Well, in a pair of glasses is definitely more than sawdust, but it's not a kilogram. It's not about half the weight of your math book. So I'd say this would be a gram. All right, and then C, the capacity of a thimble. Now, some of you might not know what a thimble is, and maybe you had to ask a parent or maybe even a grandparent. But really what it is it's a very tiny looking little cup almost. Sometimes they wear it on like their thumb when they're sewing, I think. I think that was the use of it. So we know we're looking at capacity, and we have to look, is it a milliliter or a liter? Well, if it's a teeny tiny little cup, it's going to be a milliliter. There we go. All right, the next piece of your lesson is we're building off that last one. Now you have to choose a reasonable estimate and then explain your choice. So for A, a capacity of a drinking glass. So if you think of a glass of water, and you can even pull one out at home, take a look at your glass and decide, well, would 500 liters be about how much your glass holds, or would 500 milliliters? Again, go back to capacity and decide. Look at the samples they give you that I'm going to circle in blue, and that might help you decide what's more appropriate. And if you take a look, well, 500 liters, if you have 500 quarts of milk, that is definitely more than a drinking glass. So this one would have to be 500 milliliters. All right, and it says to explain, well, really, 500 liters is too big. Definitely too big. And then we have B, a length of a hair clip, 5 meters or 5 centimeters. Go ahead and circle the one that's right, and then give a quick explanation. I'm going to give you about 5 seconds or so to decide. And then from there, well, we'll see if we have the same answer. So I'm going to sing a little Jeopardy or hum it while you do this one. Are you ready? Go ahead and answer it. Da, 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 da. Da 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 na da 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 da. I like my Jeopardy. What can I say? All right. So B, length of a hair clip. Well, if you look at meter versus centimeter, well, if you have 5 meters, that would mean 5 lengths from the doorknob to the floor. That's obviously way too big. So it's 5 centimeters. All right, and again, 5 meters is too big, or however you choose to explain it. That's fine. There we go. Now, the final part of your lesson today is converting between units. And I have up here a little cheat sheet, if you will. It tells you how to go from each piece. If we have something that starts with a kilo, like a kilogram, kiloliter, we have hecto, we have a deca. Here is usually your base, which is about a meter/liter. Then there's a deca, there's centa, and then there's milla. Now, you'll notice if you go this direction, you multiply. If you go this direction, you divide. So I'm going to show you how this works with A. We have 7,603 milliliters. All right, and we want to know how many liters is that equal to. So I'm going to start with the piece of information they give me. 7,603 milliliters. I'm going to find that milli, which is right here. That's what I start with. And then I need to get to liters, which is right here. So if I need to do that, well, it looks like I have to go this way, then this way. So each time I'd have to divide by 10. So I could divide 7,603 by 10, then have it in centimeters, then have it in decameters, or decaliters, and finally have it in a liter. Or I take a look, well, if you have 10, 10, 10, all right, that's really 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000. Here I'm really going to divide by 1,000. Again, you could do this separately. You could do 7,603 divided by 10, then take that divided by 10, then take that divided by 10. I'm just trying to save myself some work. So again, if you do that, and I'm going to do this that way I talked about in your warm-up today. So we know we're dividing by 1,000. So I figure out where my decimal place is on this, which is right here. And if you divide, again, you go that way, 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. So 7,603 milliliters is equal to 7 and 603 thousandths liters. All right, and again, we can do B together as well. I'm going to erase my work from up here. And I have 4 and 57/100 meters. Oh, well, here is meters. And I need to figure out how many centimeters that is. So I take a look. Well, here they are. So I have to go 1, 2. All right. So I have 4 and 57/100. And again, I'm doing 2 tens, which is 10 times 10 is 100. Well, when I multiply, I move the decimal to the right. 2 spots because there's 2 zeros. 1, 2. So 4 and 57/100 of a meter is equal to 457 centimeters. All right, so here we have this one for you. A blue whale caught in 1931 was about 2,900 centimeters long. What was its length in meter? So we know you're going to start with centimeters because that's what they give you. They want to know what it is in meters. So I want you to solve this one. Go through those steps and then see what its length would be. When you're all done, come back and check your answer. So go ahead and pause me now. All right, so let's check this one. The whale was 2,900 centimeters, and I want to know its length in meters. Well, to go from centimeters to meters, I have to make 1 hop, 2 hops over. So I'm going to divide by, well, 10 times 10 is 100. We go through 2 tens, so that's 100. So 2,900 divided by 100. Again, and you just move the decimal over to the left twice. So 1, 2, because there are 2 zeros on that 100. And you get 29. So the whale in meters is 29 meters long. All right, so that is your lesson for tonight. In tonight's lesson, we looked at the metric system. We chose what were appropriate measurements, and then we converted between measurements. Have a great night, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.